This is Richard McKeeseldeck from the Awaken Newearth podcast with Kristen Bielecki, an awakened life design coach, intuitive energy healer, and crystalline grid architect. First of all, welcome onto the podcast, Kristen. It's an honor to have you with us today.
Thank you. I really appreciate being here.
I know you've been busy working away on a bunch of different projects, and one of them that kind of caught my eye was the Unity of Consciousness event that you've been working on. How did this event come about? What inspired you behind this? Would you mind just explaining that a little further to all of our viewers?
Yes, yeah, thank you for asking. Yeah, the Unity Consciousness event is empowering the collective awakening through heart-led intention information to harmonize mind, body, and soul. And in December, when I was looking ahead at what was going to be taking place from my perspective of what I received from, the collective and all of our galactic guides, to help with us, when I was asking, what was this next year of 2020 was going to look like, I, was seeing the different energy phases happening throughout the year. And in March and April, I saw a massive shift taking place, but I couldn't really see past April. And so I really centered in with that and asked, well, what can I do to support people in this massive transition? Because what I was receiving was that it's go time. It is all about us coming into our conscious co-creation effort as a collective and coming into the unified field more and expanding ourselves into more of our conscious awareness to create the next wave of existence on our planet, and beyond. And so when I was asking what I can do to be of service, the Unity Consciousness event came to me, the vision and the name and, all of it. And so it was a really powerful experience to, receive that, to know that I could bring people in to support with information, and really creating an intention around it, not just going, okay, well, let's create, a summit and have speakers. And I know a lot of other people do work with intention around their events as well. But it was really specific in having a foundational shift within each of our viewers where they would come into the embodiment more of their soul with who they are, with awakening more into their vision, their gifts, their abilities, their purpose on the planet at this time, and strengthen the collective field within that so we all get to, rise up together.
So they go through a huge transformational process along their path of awakening as well.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So we all can, so that they have the resources, and that they're actually, so the real intention with the event is creating a field, really creating a conscious field that when people step into the event, through joining, through signing up and registering and listening to all the amazing speakers, one of which will be you. So stay tuned, everyone, for that. He's part of the event. So is that when they step into that field, that I'm inviting them also to create an intention for themselves, to really come into that space of, okay, well, who am I now? Who am I becoming? And what do I really want to focus on and receive from these speakers in the event so that I can really have a catalyst in moving forward in my own knowing myself deeply and awakening experience.
It's quite the divine alignment for this all to be taking place kind of as we're transitioning through COVID as well. With this kind of, monumental global mindfulness test is what I'm calling it for everyone, because we've really been put in a situation where you have to go within and reflect on everything that's happening within your life. A lot of us have had more time available to us to really be able to go within and choose or see what we're going to birth out of this time. It's created this conscious window for us to kind of shift forward, depending where we want to focus and put our energy. So I feel like your Unity Consciousness event is really coming in at the perfect time, isn't it?
Thank you. Yeah, it was interesting because when it first came in, I mean, it came in January, and I was like, okay, let's go. And I thought I was actually going to be airing it in, April, May, March, April, May, somewhere in that time zone. And what really showed up for me was a transition. Like, wait, no, it's got to be a little farther out. And I sat with that and I was like, okay, well, what's the date? So it's going to be airing July 13th. And as we started going into this process of COVID that just boom, showed up in that whole March, April time, right? In a big way, of where we were getting more honed into having to shut down, lock down, be more with ourselves. I was noticing that, wow, what's going to happen is like in that July, August time is that transition into a whole new way of being now that we've had these months of going, well, what is our priority? What is essential to me, right? What really matters? What's true for myself in this, with my family, with my job, with all these aspects that we get to reflect on when we have the space to, and it's powerful. And I really appreciate that, maybe it was conspired, maybe not. I'm not really going to go into that too much, but the fact that there was this idea of separation happening, right, where we couldn't be with others, we couldn't connect with others, and what was really being asked was to connect with ourselves. But then what it also has done is grown our connection with others, because we get to see who we really are in this and start to connect with who we really want to be with and who we really what we really value. So I'm really excited to bring this kind of next wave of information and experience throughout this year to kind of catalyze that experience even more in people. So I'm really excited.
It's beautifully said. There's a lot of people, and even our viewers as well, that are looking for resources, outlets, guidance, direction, and how we step forward and how we move forward, how we kind of come through this 2020. Because I think if you were to look back at the end of 2019 and we kind of look into 2020, there was so much excitement for 2020. And I think it's interesting when we think about it now, we're about 5 months in and look at what's happened in 2020 so far. It's been monumental. And it's been interesting because there's so many different like conscious realities kind of existing at the same time. There's some truly beautiful things being birthed coming out of this, like your event, just in terms of perspective. And I really feel like a lot of the starseeds, the light workers that have been caught up within that kind of like 9-to-5 hamster wheel lifestyle have had an opportunity to actually sit and say, is this serving my highest soul growth? Is this serving my life? Where we haven't really had that like conscious opportunity for quite some time to get a full reset. So kind of moving forward now, I feel there's going to be a lot of us like just coming out of this time completely rebirthed in a new direction, not wanting to go back to certain lifestyles that really didn't serve our families, serve our highest soul growth for everybody involved. And it's really beautiful if you think about it. That's in a higher conscious perspective way of looking at it. Because a lot of people are going through a hard time right now as well. And a lot of people have been suffering, and a lot of people are dealing with all the programs of illusion that they have running within them right now. So I feel, you kind of have like all these different aspects that have been playing out, but it's really been a huge catalyst, I feel, for change moving forward. So anyone that would like to get in and watch your Unity of Consciousness event, how would they get involved in this? Where do they find it?
Yeah, thank you for asking. Yeah, there's going to be a link in the awakenedsoul.net website, and that's my website that also, says who I am and has all my wonderful offerings on it. And I'll also be putting it on my Facebook page, Margot Kristen Bielecki. You can find me there, or awakenedsoul.net Facebook page, or Awakened Soul Facebook page. So it's going to be in a lot of different places, but
And
just
we'll,
think of
we'll
the
post
awakened soul.
we'll
Yeah,
post it with this podcast as well to make sure everyone has access for it as well.
appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, I don't have the link quite yet for the event, and that's in the works. It's coming. So, yeah.
What do you feel is your role now moving forward within these higher dimensional energies, within this universal ascension that's taking place?
Yes, it's interesting because, I've been working within the crystalline grid and seeing in the Newearth, helping form and be a part of the galactic communication with all of our amazing supporters, and all of us that are of the beings, say the Pleiadians, the Syrians, the Arcturians, the Lyrans, the Andromedans, all of these and more, the sun beings, the inner earth beings, I get to communicate with all these amazing beings to be shown, what is taking place and how to help people. So I'm kind of actually right now really honing in on this very grounded space of really working with people and being in this space of support and helping others create their life based around who they really are as a soul, at the same time that I'm really learning to, come into this place of, um, this deeper connection with what is happening. So like every day I will sit and tap into the crystalline energy of the earth and go into the earth and go into the sun and go into the central sun, and then just see what opens up from there to what information I need to receive, from the universe, from the omniverse, from our from our friends and guides, to support us. And so for me, I'm just stepping into another level of opening myself to this. Like I often embody different beings, like today in a session with a woman, a being from Sirius came and embodied me to, open up a whole new DNA activation with her. And so I feel like it's just really coming into the claiming of who we are, and that's really what I'm stepping into. It's like just claiming who we are is this amazing, uh, some of us have several different DNA heritages going on in our body, and we have the capacity to open ourselves up into this multidimensional understanding of what is true for us in the existence of this planet. So I think the next step for me, like I've been really ethereal, right? I've been able to connect on all these multidimensional levels and share this information with people and help people come into this themselves of who they are. And so the next level for me that I'm really seeing is I'm really getting into the science of it. I'm really getting into the understanding the mechanics and the functions, because when I first was shown the multi-dimensional reality, it was like, okay, well, this dimension is this function, this dimension is this function, and then we get to see the play. But it's just really opening up in my whole body right now on a whole different level, and these real subtleties of understanding the combinations of the functions of all these different levels of experience. And so for me, that means that what I get to do is give people a more well-rounded experience of purpose, right? It's not just something that's out there. It's like, no, this is a mechanical function of our reality that wants to be expressed through you to create this within the larger picture of our experience. And so I've been working a lot with Andromedans as well recently. Oh man, the power coming through that. And I know
Yeah.
that you experience that. And so I'd love to just kind of maybe experience more of what you're receiving from that. And then I can share what I'm receiving through that, because it's been really powerful for me. And if you want to go in that direction, I think that would be really great to support people right now too.
Yeah, well, there's just so many messages that have, for myself, that have been coming through, like the Adrenaline High Council, which is really a lot has been in regards to stabilizing the ascension process and just guiding us through that kind of embodiment phase of opening up to our like understanding of how important it is for us to really come into that like deep loving aspect for ourselves and believing that down into our like deepest core resonance, um, as well as supporting on like the diamond crystalline activations, the cellular,
Mhm.
our physical bodies have to be able to support the increase and influxes of light that's coming through. So a lot of like the cellular activations and the plasma activations and the coding, the diamond heart activations as well. So that's kind of more what's been coming through. They, for myself, is a lot of the work in regards to the actual like light encoded like data packets of information that come in to assist people within their energetic kind of support within the role that they're gonna, for myself, they will work with you, but they want you to do the work.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I love that because, since I've been working with the crystalline experience of this planet and understanding how our bodies and everything are working within that as well, and how we're just a reflection of that and becoming more in tune with our bodies. I feel like that's kind of like really the next step too, is like, well, getting in tune with ourselves. It's like not thinking so much in terms of absolutes or black and whites of, oh, this is going to work for me or this isn't going to work for me. It's like every day we're experiencing something different. Our body is shifting, our DNA is shifting, and coming into that attunement to, like you said, our heart space, and really feeling into what's true for us and what's true for our connection and in relationship with others, and really being willing. I think that's the word that I really like to use right now, is really being willing to step into something different and to be something different and create a different mindset and release our attachments around experiences and people and places and things, and see that when we really truly step into our higher self and let ourselves, with these influxes of energies, shift our body, shift our mind, shift our experiences, that we're actually doing a much greater service and a much greater good to the collective as a whole, because we're stepping into what's in alignment for us. And I feel like that this is like the next wave of depth of transformation, is when we are in this place of shifting these paradigms that are happening on this planet. Getting rid of all these old programs of what relationships look like, um, with our spouses, with our children, with everything, is being willing. And actually, and then once we become willing, we really become unyielding and saying, okay, I'm going to stand firm in who I am and let my life take place around that, and still love our loved ones, and be in relationship, but really looking at what the keys are for us to create a relationship where we're supporting others. And that may mean not being in relationship with people anymore. That may mean leaving a location and really being true to ourselves. And I just noticed that once, the crystalline body started to activate in me, and that's kind of what I'm receiving with the Andromedans right now, is really seeing, that crystalline bridge, really, to connect with this inner multi-dimensional reality. Because we think like, oh, these dimensions are outside of us, and they're all within, us. Because like, as we are a holographic field that is a microcosm of the macrocosm, we are actually creating what's happening in the universe right now by what we're doing, what we're being, what we're thinking, what we're feeling. And that's not a new concept, but it seems to be taking on a whole nother level of gravity, of magnetism right now. As these programs are shifting, we have an amazing opportunity to create a whole new reality and not repeat the past. And I'm talking just not repeat the last couple hundred years. I'm talking Atlantis, Lemuria, just totally shift And that's what I'm seeing too in the planet, is a lot of these old dynamics from Atlantis and Lemuria being transformed and healed so that we have a new open pathway. And I feel like that's what the Andromedans are doing. They're helping us create that whole new pathway of understanding of who we are as these crystalline light bodies. So yeah, really deepening that.
Did you want to just explain the whole concept of the crystalline earth and system for the viewers?
Yeah, thank you. Well, if we want to start on the physical level, we have crystals, right? And we have light. And crystals are just these amazing mineral complexes that have this power to store energy, receive energy, transmute energy, move energy, hold energy, just be really, and they're very mutable and transmutable. They seem kind of hard and fixed, but they all have these powerful, unique properties that can just transform so much. And then we have light, right? We have light that just is. That's like the basis of our being. We are, on the most fundamental level, light. It's this shining beacon of being, of life. And that crystalline energy that moves through everything is really what we see as geometry, right? It's like the crystals that we hold and use in our crystal work and everything is just the physical embodiment of what we experience on an energetic holographic level. And the matrices of the network of this planet, of all the other planets, of the galaxy, of the universe, is just information flow, right? And that's what the crystals are in the physical form, is just information flow. And in the crystalline grid of our reality, it's taking on different properties and functions of how we're actually relating and communicating and creating. So it's like that sacred geometry, right, of our reality. And we can actually kind of relate it to the mycelium of the fungi on the planet. It's like it's what keeps everything alive and flowing with all like the nutrients and the water of thought, really. Because if we go down to the fundamentals of what's creating reality, it's thought that creates the sound, that creates the frequency. And so consciousness, it's the flow of conscious experience. And so when we have our crystalline light body, however we're relating with information, is creating, right, this geometry of who we are within the crystal and the light experience that forms, then becomes physical. So the crystalline light body that we are naturally is what we're being attuned to right now. And so I know some people are like saying, oh, I want to eat less, or I want to be out in nature more, with what is actually reflecting to us the natural reality of our crystalline holographic field. So for me, it's like the lighter I get, like in my body and what I'm putting in my body and the thoughts that I'm having and the emotions that are coming through me, the more I'm able to tap into the essence of our experience, which is information flow, light, this crystalline experience. And that's what is actually creating this unified field. That's what's creating this connection, this collective. So how is that? How is that for
You explained that very well. It kind of segues into another topic. There's so many people right now that are just kind of awakening, and their light bodies are activating, and they're going through all of these different, like, wide variety of experiences, and physical symptoms as well. They go through this process that we usually, would term like ascension symptoms, whether that's
Yeah.
cellular fatigue, nausea, headaches, dizziness, even the whole nervous system kind of going through like rewiring. What what advice do you have for everyone that is just kind of going through these awakening experiences? There's going to be a lot of people listening to this, and they have days where they just find it the journey tough. Like, spiritual awakenings are not easy by any means. And I think as we kind of deem the spiritual experience as this beautiful transformation of the butterfly, but there tends to be a lot of work and a lot of looking within, and it's physical, it's mental, it's everything, along that process. So for our viewers, what kind of words of advice or encouragement do you have for them as they're kind of waking up, on trying to grasp what they're undertaking, or what is occurring within their life?
Yeah. Yeah, so powerful right now. And what I wish I had had when this all started happening for me was that guidance, of how to move through this, other than my, galactic universal multiverse friends, was just to be at more ease with the experience. Try to just take the pressure off of ourselves, for becoming something or being something or having to deal with all of this. And so sometimes for me, I even have challenging days, where I'm just feeling like this pressure and power coming through my body, and I get all tense, and I get like, sometimes I feel edgy, and I'm just like, leave me alone, But when I find myself in that space of feeling these physical, mental, and emotional experiences, I just go, wait, there's an influx of energy. There's a shift happening. What is it? How can I optimize it? Or how can I treat my body right now, or my mind, or my emotions, my life, that's going to be the best for me right now? And also to remember that it is a short-term thing, like today, tomorrow we could actually feel great again, right? So just sitting in that moment of when we're having our physical symptoms. And I know for some people it's been debilitating, like migraines, or really intense pain. And what I notice with that, like you were saying, is when we're receiving these influxes of energy, it's our bodies needing to integrate and adapt and figure out how to process this energy. And if we're having that much pain, or that um, many symptoms or discomfort, then it's going inside and saying, well, what's going on with my body? What do I have maybe stored in my body?
Mhm.
What am I thinking or feeling that may be a cause for this energy not to flow through me more easily? And allowing ourselves to enter into that inner work and experience, and then doing the best we can to relax with it. I mean, if I had someone tell me that, like, oh, just relax, it's okay, you don't have to do anything, just let it be in your body, just let it take its course, I would have been a lot better off, because I tend to get I used to put a lot of pressure around it, like, wow, this is happening. I've got to know, I got to be, I got to do something. I got to, go through my awakening process. I'm in this, now it's like, oh, okay, this is happening. Cool.
Yeah, we
What can I
tend
do?
we tend to always want to try to figure it out, right? As opposed to
Yes.
getting into that moment of just embracing, allowing the process, and kind of surrendering.
Yes, that surrender and the embracing. And that's really what I've been sharing with people a lot lately is, we have this idea that when we go through awakening, oh, it's going to be a dark night of the soul. I'm going to see all my shadow. I'm going to see all this dark stuff that I need to deal with. And and that is a part of the process, right? But it's a part of the process of coming into that embracing of all that we are,
Mhm.
not going, oh, I had this traumatic experience and it caused all these challenging parts of myself, or, oh, there's these, awful negative programs that I've taken on. And it's not about going into that space of got to get it out,
Yeah.
it's more of like going, oh, wow, this is a part of my field. This has been a part of my field and my experience. Can I embrace that experience and come into my heart around it, and allow that to transform the energy, rather than the idea of having to create more separation, right? Because when we're looking at the pieces of ourselves that we have been, and the pieces of ourselves that we see in the collective, I like to relate it to, the Matrix movie, when Neo totally absorbs, that guy, the Smith, and just goes like, okay, well, I'm going to let it absorb me, and he's going to work on it from the inside, right? And so that's what we get to do. We get to embrace it and bring it into us, because it's energy, it's power, and all we're doing with it is transforming it. And that's another thing that we can do when we're having our, awakening, ascension symptoms, is breathe it and not feel it's something that we have to like get out of ourselves, the pain or the discomfort. It's not going, "Ooh, wow, can I breathe into it? Can I
Yeah.
really open my heart to it and embrace it and let the energy flow through it?" I feel that's the kind of space that we exist in when we're really coming into the unified field. It's like it's all of it. There's
Yeah.
no, it's not separating ourselves anymore. Yeah.
It's that aspect of being able to see like what is the highest conscious way like we can go through this, like whether it's speaking to your body and telling yourselves it's working perfectly and doing everything the way it's supposed to be done right now, as opposed to having a tendency to see the red flags or a problem or an issue, as opposed to embracing that like nurturing aspect of saying like it's okay, you're doing everything you should be doing right now. I will take some self-care and I will just kind of reflect within this moment and allow everything to like take its course or its route, for that aspect of the journey. I wanted to ask you about the the human part merging into the soul aspect and your work that you're doing with that.
Yes. So, as we are fundamentally light, we are a soul, having this physical experience, right? It's our bodies are the vessel, the temple for this higher conscious energy to be able to experience, and play and be a part of, another reality other than, light body form or somewhere else. And what we were just speaking about is a big aspect of that, because being human, we've had this idea of what being human is. It's, it's this physical experience with emotions and physical pleasures and food and, relationships and all of this thing. And that is, our human experience on this planet. And the next, this next level of human is embracing all of those things and saying, I can still have all of these things and be all of these things, but with just a, a higher consciousness of awareness of who I am as a soul, so that we are merging human with our energy body, with the unified field, with the collective. And then going, okay, well, if I'm going to be human and enjoy myself in this body, then what does that mean in alignment for my soul? And so then we get to know ourselves as soul and get to see what our purpose is, maybe what our soul agreements are with ourselves, with other people, and choose from that space. Choose how we're going to live our life as a human on this planet, which can mean for some people dramatic shifts, in who they're going to be. But like we were just talking about, it's embracing. It's not thinking that, oh, as a soul, as a spiritual being, I have to cut out, pleasures and all these other experiences. And that may be true. That may be true for someone in their soul alignment, that some of the things that we have been doing as a human are not quite so in alignment with that. And if you're okay with that and you want to really merge with soul, then you follow that guidance. You follow what's right for you. And so it's really embracing this body as, the temple of your soul. It's really embracing the truth of who we are, really coming into that heart space and letting that flow through us and getting more in touch with who we are, more in tune with what wants to be experienced through us as a body, right? And letting ourselves be animated and breathed and felt and experienced with soul. And when we do that and we still have our human experience, it takes the level of, our happiness, our contentment, our joy, and our pleasure up to a whole nother level. And that's what I'm seeing as merging human with soul, is tapping into the full possibility and potential of who we are, and not leaving necessarily anything behind except maybe what is, you know, not in alignment with who we are, to optimize our experience as, as a soul being living our purpose on this planet at this time.
I feel it's been one of the biggest conversation points that's just been missing without our society for so long, where we operate on a day-to-day basis without even asking the question of what is for my highest soul growth today? How can I be of full service, as a society, as a collective? This is what I feel the major shift that is occurring and taking place in all of the new systems, new earth, whether whichever one you want to incorporate will all take into place is like what is for the highest soul growth, what is for our highest soul journey for each like one that is involved within the situation. So whether it's like education, whether it's parenting, whether it's relationships, and I know we've touched base a little bit on relationships, and I think that's just a fascinating topic as well, because there's been such an old paradigm that's formed around all of these relationships that we have. And it's time for all of us to really shift and change, and for us to be able to release, that level of codependency that tends to develop when we're not putting what is for the highest soul growth for each person involved. So I'd love to hear your take on higher conscious relationships. What is that? What does that mean? How do we move forward with this?
Yeah, it's tricky. Higher relationship living can be really tricky, because as you were saying, it's like when we really step into what soul alignment, and it takes out of all the mental processes of how am I being, like, what is this going to create, what is this going to cause, like, how am I going to hurt somebody, or no, there, all the roles that we have established in relationships though so far that we've been programmed with. And to get personal, I have a 5-year-old son, and I'm really looking at what it's like to be a mother in this time, and create that type of relationship. And so my son is home with me. I have no intention of putting him in any school, unless it's something that's really aligned, that has this type of information involved. um and as far as relationships with loved ones, I feel like for some people, I've been noticing people really healing with their families, with moms and dads and siblings and things that they never thought they could come into, um, compassion or love, or, understanding around what took place in their childhood or their life, in any part of their life. And then with relationships with people we may be married to, or our lovers, it's really stepping into a place of like, okay, well, can I shift my mindset around what that role actually is, and see it from a soul agreement level? Like, why did I choose to have this partner? Why did we choose to come together? What's the purpose of that? Has that purpose been fulfilled? Am I fulfilling that purpose? Are they fulfilling that purpose? If they're not fulfilling that purpose and I am, and they choose not to, then what do I get to do with that? Am I going to stay in this relationship and not live to my fullest potential, or am I going to shift out and let the next level of my experience come through for me to grow? And so that's how I view it's been like that, for me, especially in relationship to my son's father. It's like I'm feeling, you know the need to shift out because of the level of really understanding what it is that's going to grow me and be a part of my life. And I honor him, and I honor what's come through. We've done an incredible amount of growth together. And also when I look at my son, because I have these awarenesses, and it's also what I work on with people, is understanding their soul agreements with their loved ones, with their children, even on conception levels, is that, a lot of people stay together for their children.
Yeah.
And I don't see that as beneficial if it's not beneficial, right? If we see it on a soul level, if it's not beneficial, um, then are we willing to accept that and not go into what we have been uh, programmed with in society, you know, of what that really looks like. It's shifting into a whole nother level and dynamic of going, okay, well, if this is not in alignment on a soul level for all of us, then let's create something that is. And sometimes it can be challenging because someone's not going to agree with that. You know, one person and people in the family or relationship might not to agree with that. And that's where we have to be really strong within ourselves and say, well, I see that's what's right for me, or maybe for my child, or for them even. And I'm just going to have to go for it and trust, you know, and really trust and be okay with what's next, right? For all of us. And then, you know, with family, with moms and dads, like for me, like my parents don't really get what I do, right? But we still love each other and we can still get together and have fun and communicate and be together. And I'm, you know, I used to hold on to this attachment that, oh, I'm here to, you know, that I can see this whole agreements and we're here to help each other and do this.
Yeah.
But they didn't want to do it. You know, I mean, they just haven't stepped into that awareness. And I, you know, it used to hurt a lot because I'm like, oh, I want to see them like in their full potential possibility, whatever, you know. And now it's like, I just accept. And
Yeah.
I am just going to be who I am, let them be who they are, and not create any tension or friction within our soul family unit and experience, and let it take shape and form whenever they're ready to step into that experience themselves. And all I'm doing is holding space for that and just being myself, right? And so um, just allowing that flow of energy. I mean, I'm feeling it in my body right now talking about it, is that it really builds and allows this incredible generation of energy through us, where we become self-generating, you know, with our power, with our energy, which then, you know, is in tune with the planet and everything else. And we just become these generators of energy that allow for this greater capacity of existence to take place within us. Uh, and so when we're talking about higher conscious relationships, it's all about generating what's true and living from that place.
Yeah, really being able to exist within that present moment without all of these expectations and just allowing that pure divine unfoldment to take place. I really resonate with everything you just said there. You know, I've also been through the same process as well in terms of parenting and you know, those kind of aspects as well. I really love that you were speaking about having your 5-year-old at home with you. And this is to me like the higher conscious parenting, because you sat there and said, what would be the highest conscious thing for my child? Would it be to put them within an educational system that's going to kind of put them into a cookie cutter program? Or would it be to actually sit down and develop them for like their like highest like potential? Because as our little, you know, starseed kids, or these beautiful little souls that are coming in now, they don't fit into a conformed program. They need to be nurtured, blossomed, and really allowed to like kind of like expand without all of these limitations and things put on them. And I think that is just one of the most amazing and courageous things to do, because anyone that's at home during coronavirus, that's, you know, working with their kids right now, has definitely seen what it's like to have like their own version of homeschool as well. So for you to kind of, you know, make that decision, make that choice, like I'm sure it was probably an easier thing for you, but maybe not as much for your family.
Yeah, it's interesting because, you know, I'll give you the history of my child. Like he came in like 5 months of being pregnant with him. Archangel Michael came to me and said, this is an aspect of me coming through. This is the name, this is, you know, the purpose and everything. And it was like, whoa, you know, okay, you know, just having that power and that level of communication, you know, of with this new being coming into the world, having that understanding. And just because of the way my mindset was already, it was like home birth, no, you know, unschooling, you know, it was just, that was already in the works. There was no no shift of mindset, you know, once I knew I was going to be having a child. And so I was gearing up for this, but I really wasn't quite sure how it was going to look. Right. It was like I had in my mind, like, okay, got to get some books and teach, numbers and letters, and all that stuff. And what I'm noticing now, with him being 5, is that I'm having to undo my own program around schooling. And I didn't like school. Like, I did well in school, but I didn't really appreciate, I felt confined and limited, and it felt very forced, and it didn't feel natural to me at all. And so what I'm doing now is just really looking at him as this unique little being and saying, okay, well, what is going to optimize you? And what I really like to do is just really flourish in what he wants to experience, what his interests are, what his talents are, what his gifts are, what I see him really being attracted to, and allowing that to be his educational. We're very experiential. We're always, doing something. He loves to build things, and I like to garden, so he's all about gardening right now, and he's really good at learning the plants and how to dig and transplant and how to create a garden, and food and flowers. And so it's really cool to have him to have that natural connection, and not feel like, because there's sometimes a part of me going, oh, we should be doing more numbers and letters and all this stuff. And one of the things that, I was noticing through this whole, coronavirus experience was, parents were pulling their hair out because it's like, I can't get my kids to sit down and do a lesson or whatever. And it's like, well, what if you just were with your child? What if you just went out and enjoyed life and had experiences and got to know your child and got to share in more joy and more fun and more experiential experiences, and building that rather than creating the stress, around teaching your child and making them know these things because they have to know these things, right?
Yeah.
And rather than letting them blossom, and creating a balance in all of that. And
With
so, yeah,
as little people, or our little people, they're really trying to find where they fit in with this plan. So I know, for instance, on the weekend with my kids, I wanted to teach them something useful that they would be able to learn through, but be more same thing, like through experience. So we just did baking with them, and it's like they have to measure, and they're actually going through numbers, but they're enjoying it. And they're
yeah,
actually retaining the information because it has creating like a conscious like pathway to memory for them, which is also bringing in that like feeling of enjoyment and kind of incorporating like all of the senses as well. So when they can actually do something they enjoy, taste it later, just as an example, it creates this like, okay, I know what a quarter cup is. I know this, and allows that experience to really come in as opposed to the entire like schooling system where it's very segmented.
yeah. And that's just like how life is, right? We've segmented life on so many levels. Like everything is just these like blocks and squares of experience that we go from one to the other without much fluidity, right? And now it's like, okay, well, let's take down all those walls and ideas, and let's just be in a fluid experience where, like you said, it's like, wow, I'm doing this all at once. The whole learning is all in it. It's all a part of the experience. And then learning is fun. I love experiential learning because that's how I learn best. I mean, it's not for everyone. I also can book learn, I kind of can do all of it, but it's like just bringing the enjoyment into learning. And that's where we're at now too, is bringing the joy and learning about ourselves. And I feel that's kind of what's been lost by this whole thing, is that we don't know ourselves, we don't know our children, we don't really know our loved ones because of all these programs that we have to fit into through school, through job, through career. And now it's an opportunity to go, wow, I get to really know myself, I really get to know them, not just be a role with them, and really let ourselves flourish in our experience of being together and knowing what it's really like to be together and support each other together. So that's where I feel that's a part of the unified field and the unity consciousness that we're coming into, is creating that less of a separation of idea of how we can relate and enjoy our relating with ourselves and others and support each other on a deeper level that way.
To do with the whole unity consciousness aspect, the piece that came through for me over the last week through the John and High Council was, the Ascension twins basically holding like the microcosmic unity aspects coming up into the next like window from July 18th to 21st up until the Lions Gate, where it's like these couplings are taking place, and it's to hold unity consciousness and to hold the certain aspects of telepathy, because for us to anchor unity on like such a larger scale, it has to come into these like microcosms all over. We are also holding certain aspects of these within, whether this like conversation we're having right now, because we're able to exist within that kind of divine moment, but they're just explaining the power of this, the importance and power of this role that's happening for a lot of these sacred partners that are together right now, or have been coming together, and this big consciousness upgrade that will be coming through, allowing an even more deep level of communication as well.
Yes, and that deep level of communication is really taking place more on an energy level, on a telepathic or receiving of, like as we were talking about earlier, that crystalline body is recognizing our loved ones as this fluid flow of energy of body in themselves, and going, well, how are we really communicating, and being open to the subtleties of our experience and that depth of power that is happening. And I love that you brought that up, because I was seeing, that transition of happening too. And I love that this event will be airing during during that opening of that time of coming into, and that's what's really been coming through for me too, is the subtleties. The subtleties that come through when we're willing to go into that inner space, and when we're willing to be more still and quiet and open to receiving, and open to that flow from within, rather than feeling like we're out here doing things all the time. And I think that's the major shift that we're coming into, is really being centered and anchored within ourselves and our being, and allowing all of our beauty and essence and power and strength to then emerge as a whole. As you were saying earlier, the rebirth, we're birthing into a whole new experience, and that means ourselves too. And so in this time, just asking people to just settle in, like settle in here, not think that the new earth is happening out here. Everything that we're doing in here is forming what's out here. So just really allowing ourselves to go, if I really want to be a part of this, then I need to go inside and experience the subtle aspects of myself, so that I can relate with the subtle aspects of somebody else, right? Yeah.
It's the understanding, to really being able to answer that question, do I love myself? Can you look into the mirror before you leave wherever you're going that day and say you truly love yourself? And you look at how many of us, for how long, have just never asked that question. And this is changing now. We've come into this like energetic crossroad where we have to be able to answer that. Otherwise, we'll go through certain experiences until we figure out how important that self-love is, for us to really honor ourselves, honor our journey, and be able to go through all of these beautiful conscious experiences. Because if you don't have self-love for yourself and the willingness to be accountable for your own energy, you won't be able to hold the higher, stay within the higher frequencies that we're all adjusting and coming accustomed to. And that power of self-love, once you believe that down to your deepest like core resonance, it's truly like anything is possible.
Yes, anything is possible with self-love, with love itself, right? And I that's really beautiful the way you brought that forward, because for so long, we've been embedded with not having value or self-worth. And I feel like there's a lot of the pieces that people get to move through when they step into their soul, when they step into who they really are. I had to, right? I had to shift my perspective because for so many years I had, low self-esteem, and I had all these egoic defense walls up around myself to deal with not feeling valued or worthy. And then what happens as I found myself shifting more and more into the capacity to be like, wow, I just want to live my purpose. I just want to really be this. I really want to do this. It helps transform that value and worth because you're working towards something that has so much more value and worth than kind of staying down on yourself or others, right? It comes from that within place that the essence is love. And so loving ourselves is actually loving our soul, loving that alignment, loving what we're here to do, and letting just embodying that transform all those places within us that we haven't loved, and that we haven't been willing to share with. And then once we come into that wholeness, and really it's coming into a whole space within ourselves, right? Being balanced in all that we are. And that's what love creates. And so when we're willing to go to that depth of love with ourselves, and depth of love with another, if they're, also willing to do that within themselves, it raises the capacity to a whole nother like unlimited space of what's possible in our reality, in our creative power, and in our relationships with others. Yeah.
And I think you summed it up well as like the whole embodiment process is that embodiment of like the sacred heart, and the embodiment of that like deep self-love, which by tuning in or connecting with the unity of consciousness event is you explain like that whole concept of kind of taking you through an embodiment process along the journey of this event that's coming up. Is there any kind of final words you want to leave our viewers with about your event, any projects you're working on, just anything you'd like to leave them with on this Awaken Newearth podcast today?
Yes. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I just really would encourage everyone to, take a look within and decide, really decide and make a dedication to yourself to be willing to step even more deeper within and feel yourself more and love yourself more and come into that heart space, and not only just come into that heart space, but unify it with mind too, and understanding and loving all the processes that are taking place within you to lead you into who you're becoming. So embracing this process, embracing this experience. And the event, I'd love if people would want to stay in touch with me through my website awakensoul.net, and the Facebook page Awaken Soul on Facebook. I'll be putting it out when we're ready, and so to air and to bring people in, and to also just hold an intention for yourself for this time, for this next phase of our life together here on this planet, is really deeply going in and finding what is your value. What do you really value? What do you really want to create? What qualities do you want to have in your life? And really focus on that, because that's what this event is all about, is really just honing in and getting really clear and stepping out from that place and being ourselves, truly knowing ourselves and being ourselves.
I personally want to thank you, because when I think of the Awaken Newearth podcast, it's exactly what this episode has been about, which is, there's just been so much higher conscious insight and conversation, which is really giving an outlet to all of our viewers of that energetic, like divine framework and space that's being held, with also a newer understanding or a different conscious perception of what they may have had coming into this episode, as they go along this journey with us. I think we had talked before about what are we going to talk about. We just, in the nature of being within that like higher dimensional framework is just to really allow it to like unfold and take place. So I really thank you, and I'm honored that you're on this episode with us, and look forward to your Unity Consciousness events. And thank you for all of your wonderful insight today, Kristen.
Yes, thank you, Richard, for holding the space for this and bringing this into our reality to help support people in this experience. So my pleasure being with you. I really enjoyed our conversation, and look forward to our conversation in the Unity Consciousness event. So everyone listening, you get to tune into that to experience Richard from that in that space. So thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kristen.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Awaken Newearth podcast. This is Richard Kieseldeck from Starseeds, ChangeTheWorld.com, Starseeds Change the World YouTube channel. Hope you enjoyed that conversation with Kristen Bielecki. There's a lot of high conscious insight that came through for all of you today. So sending you all so much love and gratitude. Kia tatakayo korikio yoko yoko ma'a. And just sending a little bit of a light language message to end the podcast. Kia kayo korikia kamasio yoko oko yoko roko yoko ma. Turukia tatakirkio yoko thioko yoko. Kaya kayo korokio kumarakia tatakirki. Kisia kaya koyoko. Just feeling that heart expansion. Kiana kayo korikia tatakirkio yoko. Ushio yoko koko koko koko. Tu amana kayo koko yoko. Asha koko 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 koko.